Hello, everyone, and welcome to Meticulous Talks on uh, July 30th of 2022. I am, as always, Cursed Chords. I'm afraid that Hithroc is unavailable today, so it's just going to be me taking you through the decks from OnlineCon 14 this morning. If Hithroc becomes free over the course of the stream, I'm sure he'll be able to hop in and join us. Which means that this stream's probably going to be a little bit on the shorter side, because there's, well, less conversation to happen probably, and less opportunity for tangents, with only one mind at work upon the decks. But I'll take you through the decks that we saw at the OnlineCon tournament, and we'll get through them. The OnlineCon happened on. Yeah, I almost don't remember now. I think it was the 9th. That would make sense. Or wait, well, the online con happened on the Sunday, so it would have been the 10th. I wasn't, well, like, I was there for the sealed. I wasn't there for the core tournament. I actually don't remember now why I wasn't able to attend, which is going to probably make you say it couldn't have been all that important if I don't remember what it was. But I know that for whatever reason, I wasn't able to play in the event, which is unfortunate. I kind of wanted to get in the practice before Continentals, the same reason as everybody else who did play in it, I'm sure. We did have a very good showing. Let's count them up here. 3, 6, 9, yeah, 13 players, which is pretty good. That would be a fairly well attended tournament in a proper convention. It's enough that we're probably, I guess I'm not going to go through all of the decks today. The top 10 is everyone with an even record at least, so I think that's what we're going to do. And that's 9 decks really, because the top 2 were I'm pretty sure they were the exact same. But anyway, that's what we're going to do. It is good to see that many people go up for an online event. I certainly hope that Sim keeps doing online cons in the future. I know they were created because of sort of the realities of the COVID world, where in-person conventions weren't really a thing for 2 years, and they still wanted people to be able to play the card game. But I do really hope that we get at least a few of them, even in this transitioned world that we're living in, where in-person conventions are a thing again. But in reality, most people like me only really you'd only go to 2 or 3 conventions a year maximum if you were really into it. And because local groups really aren't a thing generally, unless you're living on the West Coast, um, conventions are really your only opportunity for in-person play. I hope that we still get a few online events like these over the course of the year. And so far as I'm aware, Sim has no plans to not do them anymore. So that's certainly great. Good to see turnout as high as we got for something like this, and some really competitive play, as we saw. So, with that all in mind, I suppose we should get to the decks. Number 10, starting with number 10, that being the list bought by Roman, Captain Solano Pink. So, these first, let me just open it up, my tier list here. So the first 3 decks that we're going to cover are all new, which is to say nobody had played them in proper tournaments before then. I'm going to try to the best of my abilities, because honestly that's what I find to be most interesting about doing these recaps. When someone, rather when we come to a deck that has been played before, I'm going to find the old version and see the changes that have been made, because as I say, that's honestly what I find the most interesting, is how these archetypes evolve, and have evolved over the course of fond memories. and the broader metagame in general. But this Soleno pink list is new. So let's have a look at it. So Soleno, as a main, could mean farm, could mean aggro, usually means some blend between the two. And, well, it's an interesting thing now that I think about it, now that I look at this, because actually this looks kind of more control-y. I mean, you see Pony of Shadows and you see Grogar, you see Night Vision. That's a fair supply of epics, and usually, yes, that means farm, but I see no staff, I see no Flash Magnus' shield, which are usually, kind of mainstays in blue farm. And you do see Prince Rutherford and Mullet and Rainbow Dash, which are actually, Rutherford is generally considered a pretty strong sign that you're looking at farm. So I think on balance, this probably leans toward that direction. It just has some kind of interesting inclusions in that regard. I need to read Angel Wings again. It's cost Minuet again. It's cost 1 or less. So that is, there are no friends. Friends cost 1 or less. Okay, so that's never going to happen. There are no friends cost 1 or less in this deck. So Minuet is only being played for the card draw, probably? Which makes sense. Wait. Farm is usually not short on cards, but it's important to have the cards you need. Deck having only 7 epics in it. And you're gonna want to be able to search for like Wrath of Gilda. I was thinking actually, because Smile, Smile, Smile is a search as well, but it can only search for pink friends. What do you even want to search for here in the pink friends? Minuet, I guess. Angel Wings is good, but I don't know if you want a tutor for her. I kind of am wishing Hithroc was here to guide me a bit here. I guess when in doubt, I always say look at the problem deck. And this is a super high bonus point problem deck, which goes with the idea of it being an aggro farm list. I am feeling a bit conflicted, I guess. Like there's a lot of Hot Wings style elements in here that kind of make me think that I'm looking at an aggro list that's got the farm kind of also included. It's a little bit of two worlds, I guess you could say. Yeah, it's an interesting way of trying to look at it. I'm really curious to see how this would have played out. Like, so Soleno farm, from the times that I've played it, or rather played against it, you score a lot of points early with epics, and then you try to close out, like, either with inevitability from Tempest Shadow, or I guess, maybe, this deck wants to transition into playing basically blue-pink aggro then. Which would be an interesting idea. It kind of makes sense. It's a nifty approach. Obviously, you're going, like you only have 1 Rainbow Dash property damage. Is that your only resource removal, or only way to interact with resources, I guess? I'm pretty sure it is. No, one Winterzilla. So yeah, you have almost no resource interaction, which means you are not shooting for a long game at all. Yeah, it's an interesting kind of style. Maybe there is some value in it. Blue, pink, of course, are 2 super strong colors. They've always been strong when put together. Maybe not always strong, but for a long time, for as long as I can remember. So maybe there's something to it. I'm kind of interested to see where this sort of style goes. Congratulations to Roman, of course, for I guess it was only 10th place, but for putting together such interesting deck. Moving along, we come to another. Say this is also blue pink, right? Yeah, blue pink, but totally different. Smithers playing Gallus Control. So point that I should make, in case anyone had forgotten, was that this tournament was the first one to be run under the new style Legion of Doom Troublemaker, which we're going to see some lists later on that Ponyhead still shows the old image because the new. I don't know if the new. I don't think there is a new card art for it yet. But this tournament was run under the new text, which I guess I'll get to it when I see one of those decks that's still running it. That change was a big one for Gallus Control. It was an extremely useful troublemaker in that list. In this one, Smithers, has taken it out. That is very fair. The new version, I guess I should say it because it's going to be relevant. The new version, the way that it works is when it uncovers at the start of your turn, you get to put a courage counter on one of your characters, and that allows that character to tribute to face-offs where the troublemaker is involved. And over the course of a few turns, that you can keep on spreading those courage counters out, and the troublemaker gets easier and easier to defeat as it's been out for longer. Still 7 power, still 3 points. It's a lot worse in control decks for that reason. The old version, if you manage to hit it early, could kind of just take over the game all on its own. So I think almost certainly the right decision on Smithers' part here to remove it from his list. Oh, right. So I just realized as I was saying, this deck's new. Well, yeah, it's new only because all the old versions of Gallus Pink got banned when Legion got banned. But if I'm just gonna compare this, it was Bugle who ran Gallus Pink before. This is a slightly different version of the list. Got a few more events in it, I think. Like the older versions I've seen didn't have Sepakli attack in it, I don't think. Didn't even have this one or Sudden Fruition either, I'm pretty sure. Those are both new. I think it's the Troublemaker package that he's drawn down a little bit to make room for that. And also, Bait and Switch is not super standard in that deck either, I don't think. Which kind of makes sense, it being 4 pink with you having a blue main. 4 pink is a little bit difficult to reach, honestly. You can't get there with any single character unless you... No, I mean, you don't even have a rushed makeover, so you can't put your main with a staff over. It is. Yeah. I mean, thank you, Grandpa. It's good to see you there. It is most definitely an amazing. It's always been a traditional pink answer to farm. I am just. Oh, okay. That's a good way to say it, I guess. Well, Gallus and Silverstream aren't necessarily always free. You do need to have frightened or dismissed an opposing friend this turn. Which, yes, this deck's overflowing with cards that do that. But it's still not necessarily something that you can always do. Yeah. Is this? Let me just look at the problem deck here quickly. A relatively low bonus problem deck. The Stunning Expose is a little bit non-traditional, though I definitely have seen it used before, and is obviously a fine meta call in the thorax environment. You expect to probably be getting some value out of that. See what else is a little bit different here. And otherwise, this is relatively standard Gallus stuff. As I said, lots of events. I think the night vision is a little bit different. I mean, obviously, Night Moon's a fine troublemaker, especially early. A little bit maybe less good late game, especially in an aggro environment. But obviously, always been a great play early. Tempest is two Tempest Shadows is a little bit interesting. Obviously it's great against, confront to flip mains. I guess it's great against Thorax, but really awful against, Soleno for sure. You never want to target your own main with it. I guess it's a card to be sideboarded and considered, I suppose. Yeah. Frankly, I've been lately, I guess, somewhat unimpressed with Gallus. But there's some interesting ideas here. Not that I suspect Farm is going to be doing particularly well, given over Continentals, but there's always going to be some Farm. At least one. You always know there's going to be at least one Farm at Continental, so it makes sense to have the tech against it. All right, so that is Smithers' list. Yeah, very true. Very true. That the meta has fought back against Gallus recently. Okay, so yes. So next up we have Cheese playing Orange. Applejack, work hard, play hard. No, nothing else. Just Orange. Yes. Okay. So yeah, this is the first deck we see where we've got a Legion of Doom down there. Remember, yeah, this is not. This tournament didn't play it with this version. It's the other version. But yeah, we don't have proper new card art for it yet. So what to say about this? So I look at this deck. Generally speaking, Storm King is a hard signal that this is a farming deck. But Sirens and this Apple Bloom are hard signals of control. So one would naturally tend to assume, okay, this is like kind of the yin to Roman's deck's yang. The slower, more controlling farm as opposed to the faster, more aggressive farm. We have a lot of the usual orange. Well, actually, similar idea comes out in the event and resource place. Melted Expectations and Combo Meal are both orange control events. Power Play and Turn the Tables are farm events. Desert Road and Monumental Evil are both control-oriented resources. Yeah. It's again, I'm left thinking kind of that we're a little bit down the middle. I guess leaning a little bit in the control area. I guess looking at Troublemakers, Squizzard and Sirens are both control-oriented troublemakers. Winterzilla goes everywhere. Grogar goes everywhere. I don't really have enough experience with the new Legion of Doom to know where exactly it tends to end up, but I would imagine it more of a farming troublemaker these days. I haven't looked at Friends yet. As I said, Apple Bloom is very control-oriented because of, I guess you only have 8 in total events that can trigger it. But yeah, I mean, it's a bailout. It turns all of your events into bailouts at least once per turn. So really, really good card for that sort of style. Yeah, and I guess worth pointing out, thank you, Grandpa's, because of the way your main works, getting extra power when opposing stuff gets exhausted Yeah, in some sense, I guess it's actually it's got something similar, not similar to the way that Gallus plays, obviously, because Gallus plays very differently, um, but similar style in that, one of the main strengths of Gallus was that doing doing control things scores you points. I can see it similarly here in that doing control things helps you farm because it boosts your main up. So it's got that similar kind of idea of uh, doing something your one archetype is good at is helping you do the other thing that your deck is trying to do, which is, I guess, usually a good thing when you can have that work within your deck. This deck, I guess I should clarify. Yeah, this was also 2-2. We had a whole lot of people actually at 2-2 in this event. We're going to be in that realm for quite a while. And I guess I'll look quickly again. This deck was also a new archetype for the event. EEA Council is an interesting one, right? We usually expect to see that in combo decks, kind of the way that it's been put together. But, well, given Gallus doing immediate stuff all over the place, given Farm playing so much hasty stuff, whether it be Mullet Dash or Prince Rutherford or, well, immediate events, etc. If you can spare the AT for it, yeah, it kind of hits a lot. Even Thorax uses Defend the Hive as one of its bigger tricks. Yeah, it is expensive, has always been. It's kind of a luxury play when you've got the board and need to be able to play it down. Let's see. Yeah, it was a Gallus counter, but Cheese didn't like it. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, if you can't find the time to play it, I mean, yeah, you do need to find the time and the action tokens to get into play in a situation where it's convenient enough to have it down. I guess I should quickly look at your pathways to flipping Applejack over in this deck. I mean, you've got three Applejacks, 3 backdrafts. Is that it? What else can you do off the start of the game? Starting problem is under the weather, obviously. That I guess those are just the only cards that you're hoping on drawing. That's all that you've got, which, I mean, 6 isn't bad, obviously. Given that I guess those are also your only entry, so you're kind of, yeah, that's what you're shooting for. Mulligan any hand that doesn't have those cards in it, I guess. But yeah, good to see orange. What did I eventually decide? Well, orange control farm. And orange in general. I think this is the only orange deck of the whole. Well, I guess we had some orange at the back of the field, the decks that I didn't cover. Oh, Bugle was playing orange, and was that it? Yeah, that was it. So good to see some of it in a, I guess, somewhat more traditional role of control. Give me a moment here to take some water. Okay, so next up, number 7. Eminently sensible with, or, well, eminently sensible Joshington, whatever name he goes under, with mono yellow, nurturing nature. Yes. Now, this is a deck that we have seen, well, an archetype of before. Wrote it down here. This was a deck that was played in the first Coco of Fond Memories, where it won. Let me just quickly have a look at these. This is what I always like to do, as I said. Compare what's changed between these two versions. So, same main. Let me look at the problem deck here quickly. Slightly different problem deck. We have one extra lacking lesson plans, and we've swapped out. So method overacting used to be in the problem deck. Now it is not. What else has changed? I think that's actually just it. Okay. Otherwise, same top row. The Birds of a Feather is completely new. Interesting. She's a pretty expensive friend, and there's, well, not really any way to cheat her out. Not that. Well, oh, sorry, snack stand. Obviously, when you're mono yellow, that makes sense. Let's see. Other than that, all the same. No, the friends are always there is also new. It is. That's the same. That's the same. We have trimmed down the troublemakers. It used to include Maniac and Rogar helping himself. Those have been trimmed out. Yes. So those are the changes. Relatively minor cosmetics. Yeah, Hithroc is well, not currently available, I'm afraid. He's if he comes around, I've let him know he's fine to join in. But yeah, not available today. What was you say, Grandpa? Yes. I assume you're talking about Fluttershy. Sorry, I had the chat minimized there as the inevitability against the non-interactive lists, which does make sense. It's yeah, when you get that down, it's a lot of, well, free power, generally speaking, especially given that it's at immediate speed. The deck. Well, let's see. How many critters do you have that aren't tokens? Bunyips. We have Bryans. We have Geese. Is that it? No, the card itself is a critter. And then obviously we have a lot, some amount of generation. Friends are always there. That it? Any problems that generate critters? There are no problems that generate critters either. So that's it. But that's plenty enough. Also have the adoption options, which searches for, well, those three critters I just mentioned, Bunyip, Brian, Geese. Oh, yeah, I guess also a little sad that I didn't get to watch this deck in action. I don't think I've ever actually seen this deck play. It's kind of an interesting melding of styles. Again, with some, usually relatively control-oriented troublemakers, but, well, I mean, that's never going to happen in a nurturing nature list. Sanctuary Scuffle is, well, you're going to name high, obviously, because all your stuff except for Fluttershy is low. A little unfortunate. Yeah, really don't ever want to bounce your own Fluttershy. As I said, there's no way to really get her back in. So mid-range leading aggressive deck capitalizes on AT efficiency. Right. I guess that makes sense. Yeah, that has always been one of Nurturing Nature's big draws, is that you get a lot of benefit without having to really do anything. A lot of ability to confront problems without having to really do anything. I guess that's kind of the tell. We're looking at a super aggressive problem deck. There is like nothing. Well, I guess 6 in terms of in the two Amity balls, but otherwise it is mostly 4s to confront. A couple of 3s on those concerning cutie marks. Yeah, so extremely low to confront problem deck. Like You don't even really need staff most of the time. Fluttershy and a Canterlot Citizens confronts almost all of it, and sometimes you need a little bit more. So that definitely helps. And yeah, given that your ability to confront problems is so concentrated into your main and like two other cards, that frees up like all the rest of your deck space to be disruption, which makes a lot of sense. Well, either disruption or point acceleration, and that yeah, that makes a lot of sense in terms of what a mid-range deck wants to be. This is super cool. I think I might maybe try to steal this. Um, really interesting. Hmm. All right. Well, that's all that I kind of have to say there. So moving right along, we come to Bugle playing pink orange. Now I think this is a variation on a deck that I've seen him use before. This was the sort of pink orange list that he created basically when Fond Memories started, with the bonbons and what was the other hallmark of that list? Oh yeah, the Daisy Lily, yeah, Daisy Lily and Roselux, the Tempest Shadow, etc. It's been a it's been a hot minute since I last actually saw the deck get played. It was like, well, a fair amount of hype about it at the start of the set, and then not a whole lot since. Um, now that I'm looking at it, why did I? Cause, yeah, I have this listed as a. Oh, it's probably because the old version had Legion of Doom in it or something, and it got banned. But anyway, let's see. Added Smolder and Mod. That being the handy Smolder, well, the only Smolder in the deck. Which makes a lot of sense. You can stack up +1 power counters on her pretty quickly. Right now, Troublemakers. So why is it that I... Oh, I bet... Yes, it's new because Bugle never actually ran it in a tournament. He just he probably played it on a fast clip or something, and that's where I saw it. But yeah, this is the first time that he's actually played the deck in a tournament, I think, which is why it wasn't in TIA before. So there we go. That makes a little bit more sense. First fast clip, yeah, okay, that makes sense. What was I saying? Yeah, so you can, given the amount of handy resource exhausting snack stand shenanigans this deck can do, yeah, I can see you could stack up counters on Smolder real fast. And then Mod, you mentioned as well. Well, yes, we have 5, 7, 10 resources total. Only the staffs are unique, so you could. Oh, sorry, no, Shovel's unique as well. Well, still, you could have, in theory, 2, 3, 4 resources in play. Well, 3 probably most of the time is the good number to shoot for, which means Mod's 2 for 5, which is pretty good. That's a lot of good power. That's good old Orange doing orange things. Just being really big for relatively cheap AT when you can. Well, obviously because of snack stand. I'm trying to see. We still have the Diamond Tiara in here. Is Minuet the only? No, wait a second. No, yeah, Minuet's the only Boro effect, right? Be sure. Not that she's bad, obviously, but well, you know, Diamond Tiara is still a 1-cost Eager Friend, which is honestly good enough on its own, even if you don't have a Boro effect to go with it. I mean, Cadence runs Pipsqueak if she doesn't have access to something like that. So yeah, even just as a 1-cost eager friend is totally fine. And if you do ever manage to take advantage of her ability with Minuet, then that's totally great. Yeah, still strong. Still, well, I mean, what would I say? 2-2. So that's kind of, well, it's middle of the road, but there were a lot of 2-2s this event. You can't really make much statements about relative power between them. Still, I would say it means that it's pretty good and worth looking at. Ba-da-ba-doo. Okay. So, I guess I've run out of things to say, so let's move on. Next up being our resident farmer, Pancake, with Seleno, obviously. Seleno White. So I have been practicing a little bit with him, and yeah, this is the version that he was on before OnlineCon, I think. Blue-White. This, I recall correctly, is a version that's, well, geared towards being pretty much on the most aggressive side of farm that he could get to. You can see that with the Pony Pirates. Rarity Pony Pirates, that is. This is farm that is trying to score as many points as it can. In some degrees, this has almost got like tastes of Sokol's Seleno White in it. Well, that's the card that it's got in it for it. Besides that, White does also offer oh yeah, Tech versus Reanimator. Yes, I guess that's, well, yeah, that's what that's the big thing that White gives you, I guess. Banish. In those three, it's gonna works. Kind of need that in terms of getting rid of stuff permanently, as well as Fitted Peaks as well. That's, yeah. Now that you mention it, pretty strong tech against stuff hitting the discard pile. And otherwise, yeah, it's got plushy dashes. I need to remember what Light Up Your Cutie Mark does again. Let's see. Main phase speed, move switch, agile. Oh, yeah, actually. Phew, you mentioned it. Yeah, Zesty Gourmand is also tech against Reanimator, given that it's permanent gain control effect. It's, I mean, well, somewhat over-teched, given that Reanimator wasn't a thing in this tournament, I guess, but you can't, you can never ignore it. It's always there, and like the baseline cards that allow it to exist are good. And as I'm sure Pancake will tell you, the Twilight Tricorn is still and has always been one of the scariest cards for Blue Farm. Scariest is actually something of an oxymoron there, because the whole point is that it means cards aren't scary, because Frighten has always been one of Blue Farm's strongest or most prevalent ways of controlling the game, and it kind of just deactivates half your deck in that sense. So it makes sense that that's the matchup you should try to deal with. But like, this style of farm always remains, I guess, like from my perspective, coming from the control side of things, it always remains one of the most difficult to play against, because like in the control, when you're playing control, you're used to the opponent. Okay, you score 6, 7, 8 points, whatever. Okay, I'm gonna lock you down and claw my way back and win on the time control. That's the way it usually goes. But like the Seleno style, if it gets to 6, 7, 8 points, now you're in range where he's just gonna eke the game out with Tempest Shadow, and a couple confronts here or there. Like you have to be so careful allowing this deck to score points, because its reach in the later stages of the game is so high. Like I guess found in my sort of practice against it that in general you actually kind of have to try to stay level on points, and like I guess my experience was playing Gallus, and then almost do the same thing, creep over the line yourself with Gallus's ability to score extra points before before this deck can do it. It created a very interesting matchup. Um, as I said, you can trust if Pancake's at Continentals, he's going to be playing farm of some degree. He's a very versatile deck builder when it comes to ways to do farm. I mean, the primary color is going to be blue, but it's going to be blue, blue pink, blue yellow, blue white, blue purple. Who knows? He can make it all work. Blue bunch of things if he goes the utility route. And we'll see. I mean, this white version seems to have worked out fairly well, I guess. Well enough, but I'm sure he'll be tinkering with it. All possibilities in the weeks coming up before Continentals. Take another drink here. Alrighty, so that concludes the people who are at 2 and 2. Now we move up to the top 4, beginning with Histogram, playing Fluttershy, Stunning Wonder, and Blue. Now this is another deck, I think, that, yes, which one was it? This deck was played at BabsCon, where he finished 5th as well, I think. Yeah, 5th. So again, let me just compare the old versions here. So there have been, actually some fairly significant, well, yeah, actually some fairly significant changes. I mean, if your eyes are drawn to the vapor trails, those are still there. But the old version of the list had Daybreaker in it. That's gone. That's a fairly significant move in your style of deck. The Kind as Can Be Fluttershy is new. What else is different? Old version had a cheering section in it, which is on. Actually, the Terrified Scream is new. Is the Dilemma set the same? Ball, Stuck Together, Corralling, Sanctuary Construction. Yeah. Well, actually, I guess the differences aren't actually that significant now that I look at it. Problem deck is nope, not exactly the same. The Gaggle of Geese used to be in there, and it's been replaced with a Searching High and Low, which is a little, well, I guess that's most surprising because that's a starting problem. Although I guess that's big. We used to have a Buckball Championship in here, and now it's a Lacking Lesson Plans. So I guess it's probably changed the early game strategy quite a bit. Wonder, I had the window minimized again. Has Grandpa's been telling me? Nothing. Okay. So I guess I'm most interested to know whether this deck, does it start on Searching High and Low now? That's probably what you want, because Fluttershy wants to face off as soon as she can. Or if you know your opponent's going to play Troublemakers, you start Lacking Lesson Plans. Interesting. That means that because you're not starting Buckball, the entry situation changes a lot. Well, your blue entry, I guess that explains why we've got Ruffled Pages in here now, because you need a lot more of entry into blue. The yellow, right, that's why Featherweight's in here. Else, Rush Makeovers are still the same. Yeah, so I guess the upshot of all that is Instagram has kind of rejiggered his early game fairly significantly. Sorry, I'm catching up on the chat here. that as we mentioned, he's convinced that is now always the correct answer. Sorry, you mean um, that uh, searching high and low is always the correct answer? Uh, okay, thank you. Yes, sorry, I was looking away from you there. Um, for Stunning Wonder, which I guess does make sense. And then, yeah, you have enough entry that you can kind of deal with not starting Buckball. Um, I guess, I mean, frankly, to do. You've got how many ways to get doing stuff? You only have one yellow friend in Featherweight. Rainbow Dash and Ruffled Pages, Rushed Makeover, and you've got enough multicolor friends, especially at 1/1, to hold down both your blue and your yellow. So yeah, I guess it works. Um, and then yeah, as we said, you give yourself the best chance early of starting a face off early, especially if the opponent's playing a confront a flip main, they're going to see that searching high and low and probably confront it as early as possible to get their main flipped over, which means you get yourself a nice easy flip yourself. Is pretty great, and as Stunning Wonder always does, you've got a pile of dilemmas uh, to maximize the value off of your own main. And aside from that, you're playing a lot of the sort of standard blue yellow things in Billy Racers, Shoe Shine, Jeez Louise, uh, in Vapor Trails and Natural Inclusion in a deck that's got this many dilemmas in it. Rocket Scooter is a normal card in this kind of a matchup. And yeah, you are playing. Did I call this mid range or did I call this aggro? This is aggro, right? Yeah, this is aggro, totally. Um, yeah, yeah, between Fluttershy Bulk Biceps and Bunyip and all these dilemmas, Buckball Championship as well. Yeah, you've got a fair amount of point acceleration here. Oh, sorry, final question. How could I forget final question? Good old final question. Probably one of the most influential problems to flip into in core right now. Um, oh yeah, and yeah, he did go 3-1 with this, if I am not mistaken. Yeah, so that's a pretty resounding vote of success in a field that was so well developed. Um, so yeah, that's a vote in favor of yellow and blue, I suppose. Next along is Elfin Pen playing a variation of a Cadence blue deck she has used before. If I recall correctly, this deck, it was the last OnlineCon 13, where we saw the most recent version of this deck. Let me look at this quickly. It's largely the same. Yeah, there's been some minor refinements between these two versions, but all in all, very similar. Change in the problems, a couple of little things here and there, one more lacking lesson plans. Uh, and she's moving out is new. Yeah, a couple of little changes here and there, but basically the same deck, which is pretty good, honestly. If you can, that's now 2 tournaments where this deck has done pretty well for itself. It was second place in OnlineCon 13, in what was a fairly pretty different field. OnlineCon 13 was farm and control and combo all over the place, and this field was kind of, well, aggro all over the place, a little bit of control and mid-range mixed in, and this deck did pretty well in both of them, which is pretty impressive, honestly. As its sort of core composition, well, it's blue-pink, it's cadence, relatively aggressive, little bit. No, I can't call this mid-range. This is aggro. Angel Wing Spitfire, usual property damage being your only resource, removal, or I shouldn't call it removal, interaction. Stop fighting and belly flop being your only sort of friend interaction. Is that right? All right. Yeah, that's the only removal, I'm pretty sure. Say I need to look at problem decks more often when determining archetype. Is that saying this isn't aggro? This is also like super high bonus point problem deck. Yeah, this is aggro, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah. And you're right. Yes, I have found that to be the case. That generally speaking, if I'm unsure in the deck, problem deck is what answers the question more often than not. For what it's worth, I've been working on something. Hopefully I'll be able to post an article about this by the end of the month. Hopefully, got a little idea in the pipeline. It's going to help on this whole determining archetype thing. Little preview for those who care. But yeah, well, I'll say no more until I manage to post the article about it. But yeah, pink blue aggro. Many respects. I mean, if this was adventure, I wouldn't be all that surprised to see the main as Bluna rather than Cadence, which is, that kind of goes to say a lot. When you think about it, this is kind of, I mean, what it is. This kind of looks like a core Hot Wings list when you kind of roll it all together, which maybe isn't also that surprising that it did so well. These are all the cards that we've come to expect good aggro out of. So yeah, another, like, yeah, I would probably have this one on the radar going into Continentals for sure. I don't know if Elfenpen's going to be there, but the deck is obviously got a good pedigree to it, and looks strong. Which takes us up to what I believe is going to be only one. Grandpa's is here to answer me. I'm pretty sure you and Ivory were running the exact same list, right? So we only need to talk about one of them. Yeah, they sure look the same to me. Yeah, having done the Tia, I know Ivory's only loss was in the mirror. So that is, I guess, a combined record of essentially, well, I guess the one win from the mirror doesn't count. So it's effectively a 6-0 record, I guess, which is still real good for one tournament. And given that you're up in the Swiss, you'd be facing against all the good opponents, presumably. Really making a statement for Thorax Blue in the current meta. I mean, you are here to tell me if I get anything wrong, so I guess I should just go ahead and, well, there's no need to look at any problem deck or anything. We can see it's Thorax. There are no troublemakers. It's not farm. It's got to be aggro. It'd be nice one day to see a Thorax control list, but it kind of doesn't. Thorax control just never really. Yeah, it just kind of doesn't exist because you need friends, or else Thorax doesn't work. So let's look. So Raptor Razor makes a lot of sense in a Thorax list. Obviously, it anytime that you can make a card do two things at once is obviously really good, and it being both a play against troublemakers as well as a boost to your main, obviously super great. The same is true of any card that generates critter tokens in a Thorax list. You've got the usual good stuff. Tell me why it makes sense in a list with no troublemakers. Well, now you're posing the questions. Now you're posing the... well, it makes sense in a list with no troublemakers as a tech card against farm or control, right? I mean that would be the assumption that you would sideboard it out against a deck that you're not expecting to run any troublemakers in. And like, yeah, if you're expecting a farm and or control based meta, then that's why it's there. There's no like Alicorn synergy or anything. There's no other real reason to run it, I don't think. Right. Shorter friends were always there. Yes, has no actual troublemaker removal. Well, why do you think that is? Well, because you're playing Thorax. You don't care. Your troublemaker removal is to face off against them and beat them because you have a... I was going to use some less than kosher language there, but you have a lot of power in your main. And okay, yeah, I guess the point that you're trying to make there is that the amount of immediate movement. Oh, geez, I feel like I'm back in school here, grandpas. Check the amount of immediate movement. So beat the rush, defend the hive. Could characterize Rocket Scooter as immediate movement, kind of, if you kind of wanted to do it that way. Golden Horseshoe is main phase. Shine is obviously immediate speed movement. Rainbow Dash and First Mate Mullet. Is that it? No, wait a second. So we're moving out up here. No, there isn't going to be, obviously. It's not that kind of deck. Swaying to Sea Ponies could be considered immediate speed movement under certain circumstances. I guess Surprise Takeoff could be considered immediate speed movement, kind of half-ish. Okay, I see. Oh, so yeah, I guess we had talked, Grandpa's, you and I, about this, I think, when I played against this deck, about how you kind of said this deck is a super meta call, only really works best in a particular environment. And yeah, I guess that's why. The consideration of half your point acceleration is going to be other people's troublemakers, which yeah, kind of makes sense when you think about it. Your whole point was to be a farm killer and to be a control killer, which is a little interesting looking at the rest of the field. I'm not seeing a whole lot of farm or control. Pancake was the only guy playing farm. There was Smithers playing Gallus. I guess Cheese's deck is control. What else? I guess there were a fair number of troublemakers around elsewhere in the field, so I guess we couldn't say. Well, the operative point, like, yeah, whether it's control or farm. The operative point is whether the deck has troublemakers in it, basically troublemakers that are worth points, which means epics, I guess, in core as it is. And yeah, I guess there was a fair amount of that going in. So I suppose it was a fairly good meta for that purpose, which I guess, yeah, does beg the question of, given the way the Continentals is shaping up to kind of look, yeah, I guess if there isn't a bunch of troublemakers around, then, well, this deck is going to require some significant retweaking, because, yeah, a lot of its tech cards aren't going to be super useful in that meta. You can, frankly, you could probably just drop in a few of your own epics and then do the same thing just with your own troublemakers on the assessment that, like, you can get rid of a card like Pony Pirate if you're not expecting other troublemakers to be around. You can get rid of a card like, well, maybe the others. Well, Raptor Razor if you're not. Well, no, Raptor Razor stays in if you're putting your own troublemakers in. But anyway, like it's versatile. There are ways to rework it in a meta where you're expecting your opponents to all being aggro. And like I say, Grandpa's saying this is really only super successful. Yeah. I think there are ways to make it work. Thorax obviously is a main with a whole lot of pedigree, whether it be playing in aggro metas or control metas or anything. Could be made to work for sure. Now, I guess to kind of summarize, and this is something that, since you're here, Grandpa's, I'll do you the pleasure of giving you an advert for your own stream tomorrow. Whole lot of blue, whole lot of pink, whole lot of yellow over the course of the whole tournament. Was there anybody playing purple? Is there anybody? I don't think so. Oh, there was nobody playing purple. And was it only Pancake with the white deck? Yeah. So there are two colors that are kind of oddly missing from the control meta. And like, white, kind of like people have. White's always been kind of on the periphery in core for a whole lot of time, but no purple at all is really weird. Like, that is a color that, I mean, usually shows up at least a little bit. And we're used to seeing it up near the top. So, as I said, I'll give you an advert, Grandpa's. And Sim's going to be talking about that tomorrow. As stands, though, looks to be a pretty aggro meta, if this tournament is any indication. Lots of yellow, lots of blue, lots of pink. We have seen Discord this morning. We've got a couple of little updates about what Galacon is looking like, and I'm pretty sure there was a whole lot of yellow there as well. So yeah, be prepared for some speed, or frankly, as the common wisdom should be at all Continentals, be prepared, and this is the irony, be prepared for the top secret tech that nobody's gonna talk about before Continentals, because that's what usually happens. Or if you want to just play the usual way, well, I'm sure Sim is going to have their stream talking about what they're going to be bringing in 3 weeks' time. So maybe if you want to play things by the seat of your pants, then wait for that stream and then prep for their decks. Otherwise, well, that wraps up. Frankly, we always make the tangent talks joke here at Meticulous Talks. This really was, honestly, stream of consciousness talks. What happens when one guy runs a stream with no script and just kind of talks his way through it. I hope it was at least somewhat enjoyable. Hithroc will be back in 2 weeks' time with me. I guess we'll have Galacon to talk about. We'll hopefully have I guess yeah, I mean, there will be some results from Galacon, and we'll see if something else comes up before Continentals. Thank you. I should probably. I think my voice is getting a little bit scratchy. I will, yeah, drink some more. Otherwise, yeah, we'll see you back in 2 weeks. I have been Cursor Chords. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.